Hi, so this video is to show you how to make inferences. First, I'm going to show you how to make an inference in an informational article, then an inference from a poem, and then last, an inference from a story. So an inference is when you put together what you read in the text with what you know just from being alive and from your past experiences and your knowledge about the world to draw a conclusion that's not directly stated in the text. So, first here, I'm looking at an article on the Big Bend National Park, which is a park in Texas that has a lot of different geological things going on, lots of different rock layers, volcanic activity, earthquakes, all that kind of thing. All right, so I'm looking here at this sentence. It says, initial commentary on the geology of the Big Bend was provided by early day explorers and adventurers in the 1800s. Subsequent studies by numerous 20th century researchers enable us now to reasonably reconstruct the complex geologic history of the Big Bend. Alright, so one thing I can infer from looking at these two sentences is that not too many people went to the Big Bend, at least for research, before the 1800s. And the reason why I can infer that is because it calls the explorers and adventurers of the 1800s early day. So the words early day imply or suggest that these were some of the earliest people to go there. So from that I can infer that there probably weren't too many people there before the 1800s. That's an example of an inference that I can draw from these two sentences here. Alright, now let's take a look at a poem. So this poem is called Memories. It is about a Russian immigrant who uses her memories of living in Russia to make her feel more at home and more comfortable in New York City. So in the third stanza here, lines 5 through 10, she is discussing her memories from Russia, and looking at the last two lines, she says, one day in Kiev, I heard a great church bell crying a strange farewell. So poetry is a little bit more complicated than informational text, but I actually have an inference that I can draw from these two lines. I think these two lines refer to a funeral. So here's how I put that together. Using my background knowledge, I know that there are two main times when church bells ring, usually weddings or funerals, sometimes other special occasions as well, but when I hear church bell, I think about either weddings or funerals. So that's one half of it. And then looking at her word choices in the second line here, crying, implying something sad happened, and then strange farewell. So saying farewell to someone also makes me think of death. So putting together the fact that church bells often ring at funerals, and the fact something sad has happened, and that there's a farewell happening, I think she's referring to a funeral. I might not be correct, but I'm making an educated guess based on what I know and based on what I read here in the text. So it's an inference. Last but not least, I'm going to show you how I would make an inference from a story. So this is an excerpt from The Castaway, which is a novel by the Indian author Rabindranath Tagore. I'm just going to take a look at this first paragraph here. So it says, towards evening the storm was at its height. From the terrific downpour of rain, the crash of thunder, and the repeated flashes of lightning, you might think that a battle was raging in the skies. Black clouds waved like the flags of doom. The Ganges was lashed into a fury, and the trees of the gardens on either bank swayed from side to side with sighs and groans. Alright, I'm going to stop there for our demonstration's purposes. So, clearly this is mainly about a storm that's happening. Seems to be a pretty bad storm. But I'm going to draw an inference about the Ganges here. Now, because I'm pretty good at geography, I know that the Ganges is a major river in India. But if you don't know much about geography, you might not know that. I'm going to show you how you could possibly infer that the Ganges is a river, based on the context here. So, when we use the word lashed during a storm, a lot of times we're talking about the environment being manipulated by the wind somehow, so we know that the Ganges is something that can be manipulated by wind, so it's trees, it could be a forest, it could be a body of water, it could be a building. And we know that this is a place because it's capitalized, which tells us that it is a proper noun. Sorry, it is a proper noun, so we know it's the name of something. And I don't think it's people, or it would have said the Ganges were instead of the Ganges was. Another thing that points to the fact that this is a river is where it says, the trees of the gardens on either bank swayed from side to side. When we use the word bank, and we're not talking about money, we're usually talking about the banks of a body of water. Specifically, usually either a lake or a river. So maybe you couldn't get that it's a river necessarily, but from putting all these clues together, you would definitely know that the Ganges is some type of body of water. And that's how you would draw an inference from a story.